imagine your words shape your reality changes dramatically when you just change your language. And the good news is that's free. It's easy. It's also almost instant. So we should all be doing it every day.
What are the daily hacks that people can start doing and integrating into their lives to reverse their age, heal the body, and heal the mind?
I think believing you're enough is a big thing. So starting every day saying, I'm enough, I matter, I'm significant, I'm lovable. If the whole world could start every day saying those 4 little things, I matter, I'm significant, I'm enough, I'm lovable, it would change everything, because when you start from there, you feel good about yourself. When you feel good about yourself, you're more likely to take good actions. It's like you feel bad. You think, oh, God, I hate my life. I hate myself. I'm all so lonely and bored and boring. I might as well eat cake. When you think, no, I matter. There's something exciting ahead of me. You think, well, maybe I should work out and NutriBullet to get ready for this exciting life. So everything goes back to thoughts. We think behaviors and actions affect us. But if there was a ladder, and I call it the ladder of looping thoughts, your thoughts affect your feelings, which affect your actions and your behaviors. So everything begins with how you think. And we could all just start our day thinking good thoughts about ourselves and being nice to ourselves, instead of going, oh, look at the state of me, go, look, I'm a good person. I'm going to do something good in the world. It would eventually change our entire life. So the first thing to do is to think better thoughts. When you think better thoughts about you, you're more inclined to take better actions. You're more inclined to behave better, act better, and feel better when you first think better, because thoughts always come first.
You talk about a lot how our words, our choice of words dictate our reality. Can you unpack that a little bit for me?
Yeah. The way you feel about everything is down to the pictures you make in your head and the words you construct. I mean, let's look at COVID. One half of the country is going, oh my God, this is like hell. I feel like I'm in jail. It's a nightmare. I might as well go and live in North Korea. And the other half go, actually, I'm having the best time. I don't have to go to work. I'm at home with my kids. I'm not shopping. All that stuff doesn't matter. And I'm really getting back to what life's all about. So we're all having the same-ish experience. But how we feel about it is down to the pictures we make in our head and the words. Imagine if you were going to get a needle put in your arm. If you were going to have a tattoo, you'd have a very different picture. Someone who's going to have a shot. The tattoo art doesn't go, God, I hope it doesn't hurt. It's going to be painful. God, I'm going to have a whole sleeve. My wife's face going to be on my arm. I can hardly wait. So our pictures and words dictate how we feel. And they actually dictate our reality. And if you don't like your reality, and many of us don't, start to look at the words you use and the thoughts you think. I was very lucky. I was brought up by a massive hypochondriac and someone who was very positive. And they were such great teachers. My mother would expect everything to go wrong. And it often did for her. My father was never sick a day in his life. My mother was sick almost every day of her life. And I was always intrigued at how they looked at that, how they did illness. My father wouldn't do illness. My mother wouldn't do anything but illness. And I think that's where I first learned that it's our language, the things we say. This is going to kill me. This will be the death of me. This is driving me insane. We're actually talking about the line in Hughes Market here. I mean, we've got money to buy groceries. We're talking about the congestion on the 405, and we have a car and we get to sit in the warm listening to music. So having been a therapist all my entire adult life, I noticed my unhappiest clients had the worst ability to be down on themselves. They'd use language like, this is hell, this is a nightmare, this is a disaster, this is killing me. And they're talking about trying to get their 2-year-old to eat vegetables. So not really a hell or a disaster at all. And the happiest ones, who weren't the wealthiest, but they had very different language skills. And so I was always intrigued that, we make life so complicated. We think if we have a complicated problem like depression, we need a very complex treatment. And that simply isn't true. We need to look at how we're talking about things and change it. Because in changing if the way we feel is because of the pictures we make and the words we construct, then surely if we can change that, we can change everything. And that is absolutely true.
Why do we tend to talk in hyperbole? Like, this is killing me, or this is going to be the death of me, or I'm going through hell right now.
It's a great question. It's because in caveman times, if you thought, oh, I'm going to go for a walk and I don't believe in lions or bears, I'm just going to wander around having the best time, you probably would get eaten. So in those times, we actually had to learn to be negative. There could be a lion, there could be a snake, there could be a crazy person. And having spent a long time in Africa, I get that, before you put on your shoes, you shake them in case there's a scorpion. When I was in Australia, before you walk from your house to the pool, you stamp on the ground really hard so that snakes scuttle away. And so it wasn't that long ago that being negative actually saved our lives. We didn't just parade around thinking life's a wonderful day in the sun as we looked out for snakes. And, interestingly, when women are out in a group, they always go to the bathroom together. When I'm at home, I don't say to my sister, hey, come to the bathroom. In a restaurant, I say, hey, come with me. And that's because years ago, that's what kept us safe. Women went to the bathroom together with other women who would look out for a snake or some loony from another tribe. And we were safe. And so much of our behavior that we think is really modern, it all goes back to being safe. We are hardwired and super coded to be safe. That's why one of the most vexing things about the brain, which is its wiring to go back to what it knows, kept you safe, and what you didn't know could be a threat. So if you lived in a fort in the Wild West, you wouldn't think, I'm so bored with this fort, I'm going to just leave and go and meet some Native American Indians. They could be great fun. You knew you were safe staying put. So staying put, being negative, and staying with what you knew actually would often save your life. And so now we have these minds that are super resistant to unfamiliar, new, different, because of our wiring that says that could kill you. Even though we know it's not, we're wired to think it just might. Some people will stay in the same relationship for 40 years. It's why people who lose a lot of weight will go straight back to the body they knew. It's why 2-year-olds go, I don't want that. I only like pink yogurt in a blue bowl, and that's a red yogurt in a green bowl. Because when you were 2, eating something you didn't know could have killed you. And so much of our behavior is wired to keep us safe, but it's really, really outdated.
Is this what's called the negativity bias?
Yeah, the negativity bias, definitely it's that. But it's other things too, which is, also when we were like 800 years ago, we had to live in tribes. And in tribes, you connected by being the same. You did not connect by being different. Being different, it's what we call the tall poppy syndrome. So in tribes, we had to all be the same as everyone else. It wasn't good to be different. And so that bias of, let me moan about my lot, let me complain. Weirdly enough, gossip is the most bonding thing. Nobody cares if you've walked the Great Wall of China, but did you know what Kim Kardashian is up to? So, oh, no, tell me, I want to know. And it sounds so vacuous, but women in tribes years ago knew every day that their partner could die. And if he died, they were really in a terrible predicament, because if you had 3 little babies at home, you couldn't go out hunting. But if they gossiped with all the other women, they would bond. And then they would look after them. And to this day, we gossip to bond. We kind of play things down. We don't say, hey, I've got the best house in the street, and my kid's the smartest, and I've got the latest Tesla driverless car, and ha, you haven't. We play it down on my kid's hell. My husband's driving me crazy, because bonding makes women especially feel safe and connected. And we have to remember something. From the minute we're born, we are wired to find connection and avoid rejection. And so much of our behavior is designed to do that.
It's so true. Men, the gender differences between how people cope with stress is something that I feel like isn't talked about enough, right? Like, men experience the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
With sympathetic nervous activation, but women, it's something different. It's they reach out. They want to I mean, I don't know. I'm speaking based on a conversation that I had in passing, but that there's a different way that women deal with stress. It's not exactly fight or flight as it's so commonly characterized.
Yeah, women act very different. Women multitask. For a woman, it was all about, hey, I've got to look after the kids, look out for a predator, keep the fire going, make dinner, go and hunt, go and gather some berries. So women always had to. Men was like, I've got to focus on that one wildy beast and my bow and arrow, and get food for the family. And so men in stress can shut down. A man doesn't go into war thinking, if I kill that person, they might have a family. They might have animals at home, like dogs and cats, that aren't going to be looked after. Men narrow down to survive, and women multitask to survive. And it's what we're wired to do to make us live. All of our behaviors are designed to keep us alive, not happy, alive. And it's such a shame that we're trying so hard to fight them and overcome them, because it's very, very hard to fight nature. Here's an example. 500 years ago, the thing that killed us more than anything was hunger. It wasn't disease, it was hunger. So to this day, even though you logically think, I've got a lovely cooked chicken in the fridge, but it's an hour and a half drive, and I could just pull into that garage and eat a packet of taco chips and a bar of chocolate, because our primitive brain is so scared of hunger that when we're hungry, we become irrational. We eat anything. We just cram stuff in our mouth. But that is also to stop us starving to death. So it's very clever how nature has made us live. But for many people, it's also incredibly vexing, because they're trying to fight it, and you can't fight it because it's your wiring. You can work around it. Go, hey, mind, I know you think I'm going to starve to death in the next hour. I know you want me to stop and eat those jelly beans, but actually, it's just an hour. I'll be home in an hour having yummy chicken, much better than jelly beans. Then you can work around it, but it requires a slight level of understanding, and then a slight level of being able to talk back to your mind in a way that really makes sense to your mind, even if it doesn't make sense to you.
Absolutely. And I remembered what the phrase is for how women deal with stress. For men, it's generally fight or flight. For women, it's tend and befriend.
Yeah, tend and befriend. Connect, find connection. You see, if men were weak, they were rejected. If a man said, oh God, I've got lost, I don't know the way back to the tribe, they were completely useless. So that's why men won't stop and say, hey, I can't find the way to where's the 405? They go, I'll find it myself. I know where it is. Men will not ask for directions or help, because it could cause them disconnection, whereas women, asking for help gives you connection. So the two things we need, we find them in different ways.
I love that. It's interesting to think that women might be innately more social than men. And we know that the more social an animal is, the more intelligent it is. So it's very...
women are also more dependent. So if you're more, if you've got 3 babies, I had a friend who had triplets, and she said, I can't even go to the park because you can't run after the one that's run away, because you've got to leave the other 2 behind. So we just sit in the house. It's just too much with triplets. But of course, that's interesting that she needed help. So it's so interesting that all of our behaviors are to keep us safe. And if you only knew that, we wouldn't fight them. We'd kind of work with them.
Are there any exercises that we might do to help us feel more regularly a sense of safety, despite the fact that we all have this innate bias towards negativity? And I'll add a bias that tends to be exploited by media, social media, and the like. Like, what can we truly do to heal our minds in the face of such adversity?
Well, here's one of my favorites. The best things are always the simple things. Human beings have a great fear of being rejected. We have a belief that if you reject me, it will kill me. And if you watch something like Game of Thrones, you go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Imagine if you couldn't get back into the wall, or you couldn't get back into the fort, and you were cast out, which they used to do. As human beings, we are hardwired to be really terrified of rejection. But what you can say is, you know what? I can't die of rejection. I could get an apartment tomorrow, get 11 cats, get Amazon, and I could never leave the house and live until I'm 110. So it's actually not true now. that we die of rejection. There are people who live alone and live into their hundreds. So you have to look at it straight on and go, okay, I think I'm scared of rejection. I'm not. Somebody dumps me, I will carry on. If some guy ghosts me or some girl ghosts me, I'll get over it. If I get fired from work, I'll get a better job. So it's really understanding our wiring and then negotiating back. Oh, I would have died of rejection if I was born in a different century, but I can't die of rejection. I'm safe. And I'm safe. And someone can end their relationship, fire me, remove their friendship. It's not going to kill me. It's actually going to make me stronger. So it's the little simple things. Nobody can reject you without your permission. Nobody can make you feel bad about yourself unless you choose to agree with them, which you never have to do. And in fact, I think almost everyone on this call will say, I've been dumped. I've been fired. You know what? Looking back now, it was actually really great. I'm so glad that idiot dumped me. I'm so glad I got fired from that job. I got something better. So it's taking the fear out of everyday things that we think will kill us. And it's stop believing you are fragile. You are powerful beyond belief. What can you do? More than you could ever imagine. Human beings are resilient. They are strong. They are tough. They are survivors. They are winners. You know, our great grandparents went through way more than we ever did. We're not these fragile little things that fall apart. We're really tough. And that's a good thing.
I love that. We are resilient. It's just that, Marisa, we're sold, I think, many times a narrative about how the world is just out to get us.
Yeah.
And this, especially I think over the past 2 years, there's been a lot of victim mindset.
Oh, yeah.
That's been enabled by mainstream media, thought leaders, influencers, celebrities. And I think it's really, it's served as, I think, a really counterproductive counter narrative to everything that you're saying about how resilient we are.
You know, another human need, apart from connection, we have a profound need for certainty in our life. I need to be certain. What about my partner loves me? I can pay the mortgage. My kids are going to be okay. And in the last 2 years, certainty has been taken away so much that we're now going into this kind of pandemic crisis. There was COVID and then there was the elections and Brexit, and now there might be a nuclear war. And when that's happening, and it's certainly happening now, the only thing you can do is give yourself saying, hey, I'm the same mom, the same dad, the same sister, brother, friend, the same person. So in a world where our certainty is becoming taken away from us, we have to give ourselves our own certainty that everything is okay. You know, it sounds very blasé to say that wars have happened before. We had an AIDS epidemic where we had SARS, we had so many things. Oh my God, the world as I know it will never be the same again. But then it was. It always goes back. So in an uncertain world, when you need certainty, you have to give it to yourself. And if you can give yourself certainty, you know, I sing this little song a lot, all right, everything's going to be all right. I sing that song by Bob Marley, Don't Worry About a Thing, because every little thing is going to be all right. Last year, my house got completely flooded. And it was a bit of a drama because I couldn't even move in. And every time I went to meet my builders, which was challenging on its own because they were hardly ever there, I'd sing that song. Every little thing is going to be all right. Because I was changing my state, you know, okay, maybe I can't live in my house for a year, but I've got a very nice rental around the corner. I'm getting a new kitchen because the old one's just been a sea of water. And it wasn't perfect, but it's not events that hurt you. It's how you look at them. You know, what's happening now in the world. Some people are just losing their minds over that and buying, I've forgotten what they're called. They're buying Hamzat suits and iodine and all these things. Like one of my clients said, I've got these Hamzat suits now so that if there's any way we can put them on. I said, but if your husband's at work and your kids are at school and they're in the trunk of your car or in the basement of your house, I mean, how does that work? You've got to all stay home every day to put those on. And maybe it's better just live your life and believe it's never going to happen than wait for it to happen, causing yourself so much stress, keeping your kids home. We've got to stay home in case there's a nuclear war, so we can put on our suits and take our iodine and sit in the basement. I mean, that's terrible for small children to be living in that world. Better to just carry on and expect the best, because you know what, if you expect it, it's highly likely you'll get it. Not guaranteed, but nothing is guaranteed.
No, nothing. I love that you're adding, you're underscoring and adding your clinical experience and wisdom to sayings like "this too shall pass." Time heals all wounds. I feel like people kind of have those little nuggets in the back of maybe in the back of their minds somewhere, but we're not reminded of this enough, I think. And people tend to forget when they're in the middle of some kind of conflict, in the fog of war, of personal, interpersonal drama, that time does heal all wounds. But you've made it so clear that this is really something that we should return to when faced with uncertainty, that everything comes out in the wash. Ultimately, life regresses to its baseline. Life finds a way.
And another good question is, what's good about it? You go, what do you mean? There's nothing good about it. There's always something good about something. What's good about it? And that can sound very Pollyanna, but when you really make yourself ask that question, could there be anything good about this? Yeah. I'm actually feeling really grateful. I'm not living in Ukraine or indeed in Poland. I'm feeling so lucky that I'm far away from it. I'm feeling so lucky that I live in a country where that is not going to happen because my country is part of NATO. So even in the worst situation, when you say what's good about it, it's amazing what you come up with. It doesn't mean that you forget about our neighbors who are suffering terribly, but it makes you go into a sense of gratitude. And being grateful is actually very good for humans' equilibrium, to be grateful and to think about something good.
Do you have a simple gratitude practice that my listeners, viewers can do every day?
For me, I wake up every day and I go, I love my life. I always wake up, I love my life. Little things make me happy. My cat lying on the bed, the sun shining. I can hear my husband playing music downstairs. And I think when you wake up and make a decision to say, I love my life, even when it's not quite what you want, and you got a cold and a headache and the neighbors drilling into their new development, you go, I love my life. I love my life. And then for me, it's little things like I get excited about my first cup of tea. I think, oh God, I can't wait to go downstairs and have my tea. And when I have it, oh God, this tea is sensational. It probably sounds, again, sickeningly glib, but when you can make yourself like, I can't wait to have a shower because I just love this grapefruit conditioner. I can't wait to have my tea because I love this nut pods milk that I use. And when you start to enjoy little things, wow, this first cup of tea, this first shower, even this toothpaste I'm cleaning my teeth with, this oil I'm putting on my face, this music I'm playing. When you can train your mind to get pleasure from little things, then big things just become amazing. But you actually don't need the big things because you're getting so much joy. And it is little things like getting into clean sheets, getting a hug from your child, someone holding your hand. It's the little things, someone smiling at you, that make you so happy. And so it's really important to train yourself to be grateful for little things, because once you're in that mindset of gratitude, every day has got something lovely in it.
So often, though, we are mindless as opposed to being mindful, right? We're distracted. We're chronically on the run. We're not in our bodies, right? We're thinking about emails and texts and drama. Any tools, tips, tactics to help us bring ourselves back into the present when we find ourselves straying from those moments?
I called my new book, Tell Yourself a Better Lie. I'll show you a picture. I called my new book this because I'm a great believer that we all lie to ourselves every day that, oh my God, this freeway is killing me. This store with the death of me, my kid is making me crazy. My boss is driving me mad. If you're prepared to lie to yourself, which we all do every day, by the way, if I look at a cake, I get fat. I gained 10 pounds today. I was out of control. I shouldn't have eaten that. I was just a big fat pig. you might as well tell yourself a better lie. I've got a fantastic metabolic rate. I have great equilibrium. My body works perfectly. My body is a wellness making machine. Whatever you choose to tell yourself, you have to understand the mind doesn't know. And it really doesn't care if what you tell it is good or bad, right or wrong, useful or useless. So one of the best things to do is tell yourself a better lie. This is driving me crazy. I have phenomenal coping skills. This is the flight from hell. It's a little boring, but I've got a book to read and it's okay. Oh, this weather is so depressing. It will pass. And you know what? When it's raining outside, I can get lots of stuff done. I certainly don't get more done when it's raining than when it's beautiful and sunny and I leave the house. So it's always good to find a better lie. If I look at a cake, I get fat becomes I have a fantastic metabolic rate. My body's a fat burning machine because you can choose to be negative or positive. That is your right. But if you could see what you do to your body when you're negative, you would understand that, oh, you can't choose that you're creating the stress hormones you're making when you live in negativity. Then you think, right, I'm not doing that ever again. And so I think telling yourself a better lie is something I live by. I also live by lie, cheat, and still lie to your mind, cheat, fear, still back the confidence you were born with. So have a little motto, this too shall pass, is a great one. I've got amazing coping skills. Whatever life throws at me, I'm ready to deal with it and come out the other end feeling good. If you can, you make your beliefs, but then here's the great thing, you make your beliefs, but they turn around and make you. And then you have what's called confirmation bias, where you're looking for proof that what you believe to be true is true. I was looking at a house the other day, and there was a little cat on the bed, and I picked it up, and the guy came and said, oh, I can't believe you picked that cat up. She doesn't let us up. I said, oh, I can pick up any cat. Cats love me. He said, yeah, but she's never been held. She's blind. And he was so shocked. And I said, oh, I didn't know that. I just expected her to love being in my arms. I'm a real animal person. You see, I had that belief. And even the cat picked that up. But if you have a belief that, oh, animals don't like me, and they scratch and hiss and bite, your energy around animal will make them scratch and hiss and bite. So you have to decide to believe something better. Your beliefs are yours to change. Your thoughts are yours to change. You make your beliefs, and your beliefs make you. So if you can just make better beliefs, then everything changes. And then you start to look for proof of what you believe to be true. And guess what? You'll find it. If you believe that everyone's out to get you, you'll find that. If you believe that people are actually kind and supportive and good, you'll find that too. If you believe people hate you and reject you and take advantage, all out to rip you off, you're going to find that. And if you believe that they're not like that at all, and they're actually very kind and helpful, you will find that too. So it's almost worth playing a game and one day going, everyone's horrible in LA. They're so nasty and cold. And next to go, everyone's lovely in LA. I'm going to walk on a little map pretending I'm lost, believing that everyone wants to help me. And you're going to find it because your thoughts radiate out from you and back to you like a magnet, people that pick up your thinking and act according to your thinking.
I love this. It reminds me of, there's this concept called therapeutic fibbing with regard to patients with dementia. There's this tendency when around a patient with dementia to correct them. When in fact, the kinder and the more productive thing to do would be just to go along with them, right? Because they have dementia. They're not. It's not through fault of their own that they're speaking in inaccuracies. But it's interesting to apply that concept of therapeutic fibbing to our own mental health and to essentially fake it till you make it.
Yeah. So imagine if you wake up and go, oh my God, I got the worst headache. It's absolutely killing me. I'm dying under the pain. Or you go, I got a little niggle. It's a tiny little niggle. I'm going to drink some water and take a nap. I think I'm dehydrated and a bit tired, and I'm going to be great. I haven't had a cold for years, but last week in New York, I had a cold and I kept saying it's just a teeny weeny little thing and it'll be gone in a day. It was actually gone in 2 days. But that's better than going, oh my God, I'm so congested. I feel like someone's attached a lead weight to my head. My eyes are smarting. My nose is running. I feel awful. So saying it's just a little teeny weeny niggle was therapeutic lying. But you see, your mind's job is to make what you think real. And it's really important to get that every day your mind is working to make your thoughts real. When you say, that will kill me, I'm allergic to that, oh, I just went out with wet hair, now I'm going to get sick, my niece was here last week, I always get everything going. You're actually, mind and body are now working to make that real, because the strongest force in humans is we have to act in a way that is utterly consistent with how we are describing and defining ourselves. So therapeutic lying means therapeutic fitting, describe yourself better, and your body will start to work to make that real. I'm getting sick, I'm getting well. I've got a terrible immune system. I have an incredible immune system. I have a memory like a sieve. My memory is amazing. You might as well do it better, because if you do it better, you'll get better actually all the time. That's why it's so worth it.
I love it. So it's not fake it till you make it. It's fake it and you will make it.
Yeah. Many years ago, I was working with a client who said, I wish you could talk to my dad. He's been diagnosed with cancer and he's now like 10 months left, 9 months. He's waiting to die. He's researched his symptoms and he's decided he's going to die. And so he came in and he said, I'm having chemotherapy, but it's not working. And I said, they only give you that when they believe you're going to live, because it costs $40,000 time. And I know someone in particular, my first ever boyfriend, who got cancer. They wouldn't give him, they sent him straight to a hospice, no chemo, so there's no point. And I didn't even know if that was actually true, but I knew from my client hearing that when he went, oh, they didn't give him, I said, no, they didn't give him chemo because they knew he wouldn't get better. But they're giving it to you, so they must believe you're going to get better. You're still alive today because it planted a seed. Oh, they only give that to people when they think they're going to get, but they must think I'm going to get better. And now he's turned into that expectation. My doctors think I'm getting better, as opposed to they're giving me this, but there's really no hope. And so sometimes just a little glimmer of something changing can be the most amazing thing. I've worked with many clients who were told they could never get pregnant because their husband didn't have enough sperm. Well, how much do you need? You only need one. You don't need 500 million. When you're at school, they go, don't do any of that heavy petting, because one little sperm can leak out without intercourse and travel up there and get you pregnant. Oh, but I was told my husband needed 500 million sperms. So that's a bit confusing. Yeah, I guess it is, but take of it what you want. You need one sperm, one egg, and one womb, and you have those things. And, so often a lot of people go for IVF and they say things like, well, it has a 25% success rate, but they hear, a 75% failure. I'll be one of the failures. They hear it normally works on the third time. If you've ever had a diagnosis of an illness and they go, there's a 25% chance of survival. It's good. Okay, that's good. I'm in the 25%. I'm in that percentage. So, even with illness, it's your ability to think better thoughts, to not give in, to participate in your recovery and to believe that you're going to be amazing. We used to have a very famous footballer in the UK called George Best, and he was a chronic alcoholic, but for a long time he believed he could score a goal from anywhere on the pitch with the worst hangover, and he did. Apparently he was playing for Man United and they were playing in the World Cup. No, not the English UK Cup final, like the Super Bowl. And the Chelsea manager found him wandering around London, and he got him totally drunk and said to his team, don't worry, we're going to win. I mean, I got him absolutely smashed last night. He's their best goal scorer. He came out on the pitch and he just scored goal after goal because he had a belief. He said, I can score a goal from anywhere in any condition. And that actually lasted for a long time for him, that belief, which was amazing. But, it's like you hear about whose kids stuck behind a fridge and they lift it up, or people who walk through fire and do all kinds of things. There was a couple of people in 9/11 who, when they said stay in the room, they're like, no, don't get in the lift. And they got out alive because they didn't listen to anyone except their own mind that said, get out of here now. And we're really taught in the West to not listen to our gut, to follow instructions. But people who make it go, no, I have a feeling I should do something different. And they do it too.
It's amazing. We're talking all about how the mind can influence our how we can will ourselves to better mental health, and how that can pay dividends in terms of the success that we see in our relationships professionally. But what about with regard to our health and slowing down signs associated with aging and the like? Is there any role for the mind in terms of slowing aging? Maybe even reversing some of the signs that we associate with aging.
I love this saying that says, when hope dies, old age runs to meet you. You see, the brain doesn't actually age. So composers, artists, people like Titian, who are still painting in their 80s, Lucian Freud, who are still painting in his 90s, the mind doesn't actually age. It likes newness, something called neurobic. So if you clean your teeth with the wrong hand, pick up your phone with the wrong hand. Neurobics means wrong hand or newness. Stand on one leg while you're cooking or cleaning your teeth. If you keep introducing the mind to new things, it doesn't age. Professors in their 80s actually have the same mental capacities as professors in their 30s because they're always using their mind. And if you go to somewhere like Japan or the blue zones, where I've been in Sardinia, and India, where people age very well, they're very active. They walk a lot, they participate. I think the worst thing was sitting on the couch with a remote control, just watching TV. I mean, that's just no life. And so if you look at how people who age well, they like Goldie Hawn, who's got that kind of innate girly giggle. I think people who age well leave clues. If you look at Mick Jagger and the Stones and the crazy life they've lived, but when you're on stage playing a guitar, it's a young man's activity, so it keeps you young. And so if you want to age well, you have 3 ages: your chronological age, which just means the age on your birth certificate, your biological age, which is the age of your organs, and your psychological age, the age you feel. But if you were 50 and you were a runner, your lungs would probably be 40, even 35, but your knees could be 60 if you ran in the sun. The skin, especially the skin here, could be 70. So our organs age on their own timetable, and you must disregard the birth certificate age. It doesn't mean a thing. But the age you feel affects the age of your organs. So laughing, giggling, being silly, doing sports, trampolining, playing, being playful will actually slow down your age. And one of the things to do with aging is to just refuse to believe in it, defy it. Never say, my age. I'm tired, it's my age. I'm cranky, it's my age, because God knows 2-year-olds get tired and cranky. We never go, it's their age, you see. Well, they need some sleep. And so as we get older, we're very bad at linking everything to our age. My knees hurt, it's my age. Maybe they hurt because I'm bored because it's my age. And it's a vicious circle. You get tired, so you stay in. And the lack of motivation makes you more tired. But, nobody knows what aging is. I mean, every 3 years, we add a year to our lifespan, and we're aging better and better because of, I guess, clean water and better food and more access to medication. But also, our lives are so much easier. We don't retire. I mean, I'm having the time of my life. I paddleboard every day. I went around Bali on a motorbike. I was thinking, gosh, my mother at my age wouldn't have dreamed of going around Bali on a motorbike. She would never have paddleboarded. But I think a lot of aging is a choice, and you have to choose to not give in to it. When people say to me, how do you feel about getting older? I say, great. It's a luxury some people never have. I feel very privileged that I'm going to get older. I mean, there are people who never got that joy. And at every stage, you can find something great about it. There's a lot of great things about being older. My daughters all grown up. My husband and I travel. We do whatever we like. We have a great time because we don't believe in aging. It's just a number, and you're not your numbers. You're not your numbers on the scales. You're not your numbers in your clothing labels. You're not your numbers but you're not your number of followers on social media. You got to forget all these numbers. You're a unique person, and you can live your life on your terms if you choose to think differently.
Amen. It's so important that when people look around and see how their peers are aging, that just because something is typical doesn't make it normal.
No, not at all. I mean, look at Jane Fonda, look at Judi Dench. Look at Cher. There are so many women out there. Look at Michelle Pfeiffer, who look amazing for their age. And you think, wow, my grandmother wouldn't have done that. And that's a great thing. And there's so many men too who are amazing. And so it's a choice, not, look at Anthony Hopkins. I watched The Father last year, and he was 82 when he filmed that. But it's that same thing. Old age runs to meet you. But you retire from life. And if you keep working and contributing, doing, you're not aging, because the brain doesn't age. Thoughts don't age. The body ages, but there's a lot you can do to help that. Exercise, eat better, keep moving. I mean, if you go to Japan and see people practicing Tai Chi in their 80s, they look amazing because they're flexible.
Yeah, it is amazing when you see the variety of the ways in which people age around the world.
And look at Tom Brady, 20 years ago, that would have been unthinkable, but he's an amazing example. And if he can do it, you can do it too. Yes, he has a particular diet, a particular workout regime, but you can do a bit of that too. Because everyone who ages well shows you the possibility that you can do it too.
Well, you said that people who age well, they leave clues.
Lots of clues, yeah.
Lots of clues. Are there any morning habits that help that people should consider adopting to achieve better health?
For aging, there has never been anything yet better than exercise to slow down aging. There's lots of things that have come along, but to this day, stretching, moving, keeping going. So again, if you go to the blue zones where people are still walking up hills and still farming and still cooking and still buying their own food and still having sex in their 80s, it's because they don't actually have a choice. They live in villages where they're mountain regions. They don't have Uber. They don't live in the middle of LA where you can get Instacart to deliver everything. So they have to keep participating. And that's a great example. So if you want to age well, put some form of exercise in your life, not a lot. But the biggest thing is do not believe in aging. The BBC did an experiment maybe 20 years ago where they took people in their 80s to a retreat, but it was set up to look like it was in the 50s, and they had photos from the 50s and all the furniture and music, and they had to pretend they were 30 years younger. They could only watch shows from 30 years ago, the music and the clothes, and they all said, it was so weird. I actually slipped back into that world of 30 years ago. I really believed I was younger, and it was a game changer. And not only did they change, their finger lengths changed, their grip changed, their gait changed, because they convinced the mind they were younger. And when they convinced the mind they were younger, they actually started to become younger. So what can you do? Play music from 30 years ago. Do things that you did 30 years ago. Dance around the kitchen table. Be silly, be giggly, be girly, be youthful, because youth is flexibility and flexibility is youth. So have a flexible attitude. You don't go, oh, well, at my time, get down with the kids and listen to their music, do what they're doing. Don't go, oh, look at that rubbish, turn it off. It's really important. I love hanging out with my daughter. I love hanging out with her friends. When I'm with her, I just feel like her best friend. I never feel, I am her mum, but a lot of the times we hang out like best friends and we do things together and we talk about stuff and we laugh. And I don't go, oh my God, I don't understand this fashion. I don't get it. I go, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you like it. And so youth is flexibility and flexibility. Be young at heart. That's what Frank Sinatra, you can survive to 105 if you're young at heart. And he knew what he was talking about.
I love that song. That is such a good song. With regard to exercise, you mentioned you paddleboard every morning. Is that true?
I love it. Yeah.
Wow.
And, I didn't realize that the balance is so good for your brain. I paddleboard because it's very meditating, but balance is really good for your mind, which is why when you clean your teeth, you should stand on one leg. In fact, standing on one leg and counting with your eyes shut, counting the seconds predicts how well you're going to age. So anything to do with balance is very good for mental aging. And that's why I guess when you see people doing yoga and doing the warrior, leaning onto one leg and doing the tree, it isn't just good for your body, it's good for your mind. When you're flexible and you can balance, it does something to all the syntaxes and the circuits in your neural circuits, and it helps you age better. It's probably why so many ballerinas age incredibly well, and Tai Chi experts and people doing anything to do with balance. It's really good for your aging.
Do you belong to a gym? Do you do resistance style exercise or?
When I'm traveling, I'm in a hotel, I like going to the gym. But for me, going to the gym is always, you've got to get dressed and drive there and work out. I have a reformer in my house and I have some resistance bands and I have some weights. But the thing with exercise is you got to love it. So for me, paddleboarding, cycling and walking are my thing. And the problem is if you do a form of exercise and you hate it and you endure it, it doesn't have the same effect as when you love it. So it's very important to find what you love. For me, cycling, walking, paddleboarding, and Pilates and yoga is my thing. I actually love weights, but I didn't really like circuit training. I probably would actually if I did it, but just gyms are not my thing because I like my own music, and it's very important to find out what you like and make it not what you do, but who you are.
I couldn't agree more. Just going back to language and how important using the right language is. Sometimes when I feel really unmotivated, I know that I should probably exercise in those moments, but I think to myself, I have to work out to fix how it is that I'm feeling. But a simple language shift, instead of thinking about exercise as something you have to do, thinking about it as something that you get to do, flips the script, and it makes me a lot more not just inclined to do it, but grateful to be able to do it.
Yeah, and when you're doing your crunches, what you have to say is, my body loves it. You need the space of a bath towel to work out. And if you only did 3 things, the plank, crunches, and lunges, especially if you use arm weights, that would actually be enough. But when you're doing lunges, I find when I'm around my kitchen island, I do a few lunges. So it's a really good idea to put it into your day. When I get up in the morning, the kettle's boiling, I can do the coffee machine. I can do 10 lunges. When I'm watching TV, I can do the plank. I can do a few crunches. I can do it when I come out of the shower. When you're doing it, say the magic words, my body loves this. You don't have to love it, but your body is made to move and it absolutely loves it. And if you can just say those magic words, my body loves it. And the second one, I've chosen to do this and I've chosen to feel great about it. Your mind, when you say I've chosen this and chosen to feel good about it, understands, oh, you chose this. So all the resistance is just going to go away because you chose it. It's like people go, oh, I want pizza, I got to eat rabbit food. I want cake and I'm forced to have berries. No. You say, I could eat cake. I've chosen berries. I've chosen to love them. Because again, you're directly telling your mind what to do. Your mind is the genie and your wish is its command, saying, I've chosen to go to the gym, so I'm going to choose to love it. I've chosen to eat salad instead of rice, but I'm choosing to feel great about it. Because again, your words shape your reality. Your reality changes dramatically when you just change your language. And the good news is that's free. It's easy. it's also almost instant. So we should all be doing it every day.
I love that. And I couldn't agree more. I've seen it work in my own life.
Me too.
Yeah, it is quite beautiful. Well, you put out such great work into the world, and I really enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm. I love how British you are, by the way. Like, I just think it's.
I like being British, I must admit. Even though I live in America, I still say wardrobe and motorway. And I haven't quite got all my Americanisms. I do say trash now instead of rubbish. So
But you love your morning tea.
love my morning tea. I'm so English. Cup of tea is everything to me.
What do you put in it?
Actually, I love this nut pods milk that's half almond milk and half coconut milk. It's my passion. I love it. So I'm a huge fan of nut pods. It's amazing. I don't use cow's milk, but English breakfast tea with this nut pods milk is heaven to me.
With a little bit of like sweetener? What do you?
No, I don't have sweetener. I try to avoid that. I'm very aware that the minute you wake up, your taste for sweet stuff, you want more and more. So if you start your day with honey in your tea or honey on your porridge or anything sweet, you it's like waking up the tiger. So I avoid sweet stuff as much as I possibly can.
Wow.
I want chocolate. I'll have a bit of goat's cheese instead. And it's really amazing how quickly you can lose the taste for sweet stuff. But when you keep putting sugar in your body, even sweeteners, your body thinks it's getting sugar. It makes a lot of insulin. And so, we have to remember that we're cavemen, and cavemen didn't have much sweet. They didn't have 10 oranges when they woke up in the morning. When they found berries, they found honey like twice a year. They had to share it with a whole tribe. And so I think we've gone a bit mad with this sweet stuff. And I think it's really important for your body to minimize sugar as much as you possibly can, and to also minimize sweet stuff, because you think, well, I need something sweet, because whatever you give your body, as you give your body an olive every day, it starts to go, where's my olive? Give it coffee with cream and sugar, it goes, where's my coffee with cream and sugar? When you take it away, because your taste buds change every 10 days, you think, oh, I didn't really want the sugar. Then when you go back, I think, I can't believe I drank this stuff. It's disgusting. So I'm a fan. I mean, no one loves chocolate more than me. But I found I gave up sugar a lot. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to have it once a week. It doesn't matter which day. And that really works for me, because I can have it and then try to wait 7 days to have it again. And I find not having sugar has made a huge difference to my life, because it's not even a food, it's a chemical. It's the only food in the whole world that requires no sell-by date, because it never, ever, ever decomposes. And so it's a good thing to recognize if bacteria won't eat it, why the hell are you eating it?
Yeah, well said. A little bit of dark chocolate, though. I mean, 85% or higher, there's no. There's a lot,
berries are wonderful, and there's some sweet thing. I use monk fruit. It's nothing wrong with a bit of dark chocolate. The problem is people have it every day. I'm having my chocolate. I'm having my hot chocolate or my white frappe latte every day. My little 1 scoop of ice cream every day. As scary as is, your liver can only process 3 teaspoons of sugar every 24 hours, which is nothing. A slice of bread has more sugar in it than that. And so one of the great things you can do is to have less. And actually, when you're talking about aging, sugar really attaches to your skin. It makes your skin very stiff. It gives you these horrible lines. It's not a food, it's a preservative. So by all means, love your dark chocolate, but don't get in the habit of having 5 squares every night. Have 1 or 2 squares, or save it for the weekend. But yeah, dark chocolate's got flavonoids in it. It's very good for you. But like everything, any food company will mess that up if they can. So all the things that were good, like rice cakes and oat cakes and yogurt, you'll find food and taken that whole thing and they just crammed them full of sugar. And it's such a shame that now, even if you buy pasta sauces or chicken in a restaurant, everything is full of sugar, salad dressing, full of sugar. So it's a good thing to enjoy sweetness, but to save it for high days and holidays. And I just think it's so much better not to have it every day, because you set yourself up for wanting it every day.
Yeah, and what you're hinting at is the insidious nature of added sugar in the modern diet. That it's just a little bit here and there is fine, but today it's just a sugary sweet deluge.
Yeah, I mean, if you have carrots in a restaurant or salad, you can bet your life that's covered in sugar. McDonald's has as much sugar as a cake. Most bread in America is just the same as cake. And so it's better to be careful about sugar and then to really enjoy a little ice cream or some dark chocolate. And I think, I love that. I don't really want it in my chicken or my fish or my soup. I mean, even places like breakfast cereal. I mean, that's just candy. I look at breakfast and I look at all those protein bars. I was in Whole Foods and stuff. They've got a whole aisle of these, but it's just candy by another name. And, I think in 20 years, I'll look back and think, wow, people gave their kids juice. They must have been mad that whether you have a glass of orange juice or a glass of Coke, it has the same amount of sugar in it. And actually, the best part of fruit is the pith, the white stuff. And so when you have juice, all the good stuff is in the skin. Like bananas, it says little bits that you peel off and the skin. And so we're really missing out on the goodness and just eating all the sugar. And one day we'll look back and think, they must have been crazy, those people. They juiced fruit, threw away the good stuff, and just drank all the sugar. What were they thinking of?
We're so backwards. Today, your average American consumes 77 grams of added sugar every single day. Every
single day. And the liver can only, and there's 4 grams in a teaspoon. So your body can only take 12 grams a day before it stores it as fat. And if you're having 77 grams, that's actually terrifying, isn't it? I think if as a mother, if you poured out the cereal and you saw that 1/3 of it was sugar, or you wouldn't eat it, but we don't see that.
And you're absolutely right. In your total blood volume at any given time is only containing about 4 teaspoons of sugar.
Yeah, maximum. That's what it should contain. But 77 grams, what's 4 into 77? I don't even know. But
it's about 20. It's about 20. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's incredible how much sugar we eat now and how we've accepted that and put it into everything. And I think having a breakfast of croissants and orange juice and then a latte is healthy when you might as well just eat a massive bar of chocolate. It's all the same.
In England, do you have the same kinds of problems with regard to diet as you do here in the US?
Yeah, we're slightly better in that Monsanto is not allowed in the UK, and a lot of chemicals that you're allowed to put in food we don't allow, but we have exactly the same problem. People eating cake and sandwiches, and people don't buy ingredients, they buy food, they buy ready meals. They have a lot of ultra processed. I even now try not to buy stuff in a packet. I would once go into a garage and buy a Quest, but I think, what? Why don't I buy a banana? Because I'm trying to get away from all this stuff in packets, because it's not even food. It's not food if you can't read the ingredients. It's not food if it has 5 more. It's not food if it has it's not food if you can say in every country, hey, you could go to Egypt and say 7-Up, Coca-Cola, Haribo's, and they would produce them for you. So that's not actually food. It's huge chemicals. And, bodies now apparently are taking 7 to 10 days to decompose instead of 3, because we're full of preservatives and chemicals and emulsifier. And really got to go back to buying ingredients rather than food.
Exactly. Whole Foods don't contain extensive ingredients lists. They are the ingredients.
Yeah. I love orange chicken, but I don't buy it anymore because I know, I was in Erewhon yesterday and I said, what is that teriyaki chicken? It says loads of sugar. The whole sauce is sugar.
Oh, loaded.
Japanese restaurant. Well, what's in this teriyaki? Sugar. What's in the bit? Sugar. It's become almost amazing. Actually, they do say if you went to a store and bought the stuff that didn't have sugar, it would only be 12% of the stuff on the aisles. And that includes all the cleaning products. So that's such a shock that only 12% of foods in American stores, and English too, we're really hardly any better, a tiny bit, but not much.
Wow. So 88% of the foods in a modern supermarket have added sugar in them.
Yeah, apart from, looking at peppers, the fresh food, but everything on the shelves, 88% of it is packed with sugar. Even pet food is full of sugar. It's a kind of insane that there's sugar. My husband will come home, go, "Hey, I bought these kettle chips. I'm like, full of sugar. I bought this bouillon. It's full of sugar." I make him read it, but he says, "Well, it's so tiny. I didn't see it." And I'm forever saying, you've got to look at everything and don't buy it if it's got sugar in it.
What are the kinds of foods that you regularly buy?
So avocado, I nuts. So my diet, I eat something I call the 5 R's, and it's really helpful. When I'm eating, I ask myself a question: does this food roam or grow on the planet freely? So that would be eggs or chicken or fish or berries or nuts or seeds or vegetables. So that's the first R. Does it roam or grow? Does it rot? Again, if bacteria won't eat it, and bacteria eat shit, they eat paper. So if they won't eat it, it's a bit of a wake-up call. So I wouldn't buy things. I mean, I love potato chips, but I wouldn't buy stuff like pretzels because they never rot. I wouldn't buy margarine, it never rots. What's the third R? I can recognize what's in a pear or a peanut butter, but I can't recognize what's in maybe a pretzel or a donut. So I wouldn't buy that. Could I eat it raw, even if I'd hate it? Well, I could eat raw eggs, raw fruit, raw meat, raw fish. Can I recreate it in my kitchen? So I could recreate salsa or guacamole or peanut butter, but I couldn't recreate gummy bears or Coca-Cola or margarine because that stuff is made in a plant. So I in the morning, I'll eat eggs and spinach and eggs and avocado and fish for lunch and vegetables and chicken and vegetables, trying to eat a lot of vegetables. I snack on nuts and seeds. I love apple slices with peanut butter on them or almond butter. And I like feta cheese. So I try just to have food that I can buy rather than food that is already made for me. And when I'm eating out, it's pretty much the same. So, but what happens with the body is whatever you eat all the time, you like. So you'll see people who say, I love Pop-Tarts or I love donuts. I've been eating them my whole life. I've been eating Cheerios for breakfast since I was 5. But whatever you give your body, it starts to like it. And even though it seems weird to have berries without sugar or coffee without creamer, if you keep going, you'll find you prefer it.
I love that. Well, there's no doubt an impact that your diet is having on your radiance, on your intelligence, on your beauty. You've got it all, Marisa Peer. Hey guys, if you enjoyed that conversation, you're going to love this one. How can we maximize our morning routine for better health?
Well, I think a starting point for that would be thinking about your morning. The morning routine is going to start with the evening.
Interesting.
So your evening setup is what prepares you to be able to open up, wake up, and actually be ready to engage with the day. So something that I think is invaluable for preparation for the morning routine is to create a list of what it is that you want to be pursuing for that day. So, and also just having a moment of stillness, before going to bed. So kind of throughout our lives, I think we're really filled with minutia throughout the entirety of our days, and everything is just kind of rolling on top of the next, on top of the next, on top of the next, and having some type of specific anchor points throughout the day, I think is absolutely invaluable. So meditation is a really obvious one for that, but it could also be like taking a walk, if you have a dog. Dogs are such an amazing tool for catalyzing healthy practices.
What about cats? Not so much.
Less. Well, they're helpful for touch.
Yeah, they are. Oxytocin.
That's
a big thing.
There is some research about touch, and we'll stay focused on the thread of the morning stuff. But there was research on University of Miami that demonstrated touch to be helpful with children, babies in incubators, so preemies. The researchers just offered 15 minutes of touch 3 times a day to the babies in these incubators, and they found they grew, I think it was 53% faster than the other children that were untouched, uncontacted. and they were able to be released obviously sooner since they were growing and metabolizing food more efficiently. So it's such an interesting conversation of how we, you talk a lot about nutrition, obviously, and so many other things. But I think that even touch and, environmental conditions, textures, like right now I'm wearing this awkward, silly shawl that's incredibly comfortable and soft. That affects the way that we feel. So I would think of in addition to all of your amazing work, I would add in touch as literally almost like a physical nutrient in a way.
Vitamin T. Wow, I love that.
Vitamin T. Yeah, at least with preemie babies. So the night before starting off, get yourself organized. So get your house clean is a really important thing. So like each day having a punctuated end of the day, like period set, like cool, that was the day. I think something that's incredibly valuable as well. And there's been a ton of research to suggest that just having some type of punctuated gratitude practice, so which could also act as an anchor point. So at the end of the day, reflecting back and saying, what did I do well today? I think that's a really powerful practice to get into, because most of us are so habituated towards how do we mess up? How do I suck?
Right.
Why am I a loser?
Yeah.
So starting to rehabituate that mental chatter. William James called us bundles of habits. So William James, he was widely known as the father of modern psychology. So we're just these bundles of habits, and throughout the day we average 60 to 80,000 thoughts each day, and typically most of them are just reiterations of yesterday and last week and last month and last year. Do you ever think about that? How consistent your thoughts are?
Oh yeah, and how inane half of them at least are about things that I'd rather not think about.
Right.
It's one of the reasons why I think meditation is so beneficial. And I'm not, I'm a very novice meditator. I meditate when I can will myself to do it, but I found it to be very helpful in terms of directing my attention off the thoughts I'd rather not have and back into the present moment.
Sometimes I think meditation can be conflated with very almost like feminine, kind of like soft. Like it's not. You don't see a lot of dudes meditating on the cover of Muscle and Fitness.
Right.
It's kind of like, it's kind of like, ooh, it's for emo people or chicks, or it's an incredible, from a masculine perspective, which masculine doesn't relate to genitalia. It's just a quality, but a masculine lens on meditation that I like to gamify it, and think of it. It's like almost like you're like sharpening a blade, but instead of sharpening a blade inside of your kitchen with a stone, you're sharpening the blade of your consciousness and your capacity for attention. So when you are in a practice of meditation, which I think a lot of people don't understand, and I still have a lot to understand about it as well, but it's really as simple as picking a point. In like yoga speak, they might call it like your dristi if you're doing like a movement practice. You're like picking a point in the room. The point may be your breath, anapanasati,
or like a mantra, right?
Or a mantra, or a candle, or it's just pick a point. And I think that there's a lot of maybe unnecessary debate of like whose mantra or dogma or practice is like the best. I think from a mental, cerebral perspective, it's really just finding a point, allowing your mind to do what it does, which is wander to this thought and that thought and the next one, and then consciously engaging back onto that point. So you could start a really amazing meditation practice just looking at a water bottle. There's a water bottle sitting in here. I'm just focusing on the water bottle, and then suddenly I start thinking like, oh, this is kind of boring looking at this water bottle. Oh, okay, come back to the water bottle. Oh, and I probably need to go take out the dog, whatever thing. It's like, oh, come back to the water bottle. And doing that for 12 minutes that's like a really, as far as like a low, what's the minimum viable
product? Minimum viable product.
Yeah, so that's like at the low end, that's a really great benchmark to get to 12 minutes.
Wow.
What is her name? Did you have Dr. Amit? She did Rogan's podcast.
Mishi Jha.
Mishi Jha.
Yeah,
that's her.
She was great. She's been on the show.
Okay, cool. So that was her. I'm borrowing that from her.
When she borrowed that from Vedic meditation, which is something that we, humans have been practicing and perfecting for millennia.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think what's so useful about it is that it brings you into the present moment, which is, I think, useful, especially in the context of anxiety and depression. Anxiety is obsessive worry about the future, and depression is excessive rumination about the past.
Mm.
And so, what an easy way to dissolve worry, right? But to bring your focus back into the present moment.
Yeah.
And that's what I think meditation offers.
Yeah. But I think that, like, making it be like gamifying it, I think is an incredibly valuable tool and approach. At least for me, I found that to be really helpful.
Yeah.
So as opposed to I'm doing this spiritual thing, I'm meditating, I'm like waiting for some transcendent samadhi, like, it's like, like literally all it is you playing the game with the mind drifts away and you come back to that. Mind drifts away, you come to that, back to that. And eventually with time, you notice it starts to feel a little bit easier and actually feels like joyful. And then, Sam Harris talks about this where, he comes from a Vipassana background where it's like hours of meditation each day. Traditional Vipassana, like the initial one, when you go for 10 days, you get up at like 4:30 in the morning, you meditate for an hour, then you take a little walk, and you do that for 10 consecutive days. And then eventually you can start to almost like own that state and be able to start to integrate that into your daily life. So after
Wow.
doing several Vipassanas, eventually they allow you to do a walking Vipassana, where you're starting to integrate meditation into just taking a walk around some stony path for a while. But it's laying that foundation of clarity, of focus first, and then from there you can kind of build out. And so having those anchor points throughout the day, there's just endless amounts of evidence to suggest that it's helpful with pretty much every biological marker to indicate health. But it's a really beautiful practice to start to create some separation from this day to that day, and et cetera.
Yeah. So 12 minutes, you would say, before bed helps prime the pump for an optimal morning.
12 minutes before bed, and also including with that a breakdown of just like going back and kind of having an audit of your day. And I think specifically coming from a place of, what were my wins today?
I love
What
that.
did I enjoy about today?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that like a common conversation now is in the space of longevity. We're trying to live to 150 years old, or, live forever.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're not excited about your existence, like, what are you living for exactly? And within that space, I don't hear much conversation around starting to center ourselves, from a place of joy. So I think that that's a really important component to integrate in there, is like just scanning back through your wins, then also not being just eternally optimistic about everything, also coming back and saying, like, how could I have improved today? So coming at it from like a business lens, and saying, like, hey, cool, great, did a great job, and what can we do better?
I love that.
And so I think that's a really powerful way just to kind of create a little list. And, once you write things out, they become real and organized, and you can look at it and hold it. And then the same thing the next day, come in and say, cool, like, what are the two things that would move the needle for me tomorrow? And really waking up already primed to own that day, to use Aubrey Marcus's term for his book, Own the Day.
It's really cool. You're like, there's actually a beautiful quote in your book, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember it verbatim, but it's basically like, what you want to, before going to bed, it's really interesting to think about seeding your subconscious
Yeah.
with with your intention for the following day. Like to seed your subconscious, because your subconscious does all this work overnight, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, you have the ability. It's like this really powerful window of opportunity before you go to sleep to plant the seeds of what you hope your consciousness will grow from itself the next day.
Yeah. And then within that, with seeding, there's a term in relation to plants. It's called, I think it's referred to as thigmomorphogenesis, and essentially is you can bend, say, like a bonsai tree or any kind of plant to fit whatever your vision of how you'd like it to grow. But that also happens anytime wind is exposed to a tree or any kind of plant. That thigmomorphogenesis is their response to their environmental conditions to grow to match the shape of their environment. And so you're doing that throughout the entirety of your life. Right now, as we're sitting here, we're a term from a biological human term is mechanotransduction. Katie Bowman goes deep into all this stuff. I just recently recorded a conversation with her just a few weeks back, so all this stuff is fresh from her mind as well. But as we're sitting in this position, we're mechano-transducing ourselves to fit this shape of this chair. So as your bum is pressing against the bottom of that chair, you're creating electrical charge in and around the connective tissue and the bones that are feeling that pressure. So that then creates a response, electrical response called piezoelectricity. And then you have these cells that either build tissue up around that space or break tissue down. Osteoclast, osteoblast, you've heard like blast class cells.
Yeah.
And so right now, and we're going to get into how this relates to like being better in the morning, but right now, anyone listening to this, and you and I, we are literally architects for our body as we're sitting here. Like we're training right now. And our body is it's growing to fit this position, where that becomes interesting from a mental emotional perspective. And we include this research in the Align Method book as well. It's from San Francisco State University. They did interesting study with students where they found students that were hunched over into, in the book we call it like a mopey archetypal position, kind of like hunched over, forward head posture, rolled forward shoulders, spine rolled forward.
You're describing how I'm sitting.
Knees collapsed
right
in, all that stuff.
I always become a lot more posture conscious whenever I hang out with you.
I'm really describing modern culture, as a widely modern culture, that's, and it's not a moralistic judgment, like it's bad or good. It's just that the general postural, musculoskeletal patterns of the day are veered towards collapse. So when you're sitting down on a chair and your pelvis is wrapped underneath and your head is rolled forward in that forward head posture, shoulders are going forward, you're creating kind of like dams and blocks in those various different joints that they perform optimally when they have full functional range of motion in all directions. And when they get blocked up, then the body starts to kind of it inhibits itself to be able to express with its full potential.
It's amazing that we can talk about this in the language of anatomy and physiology when like ancient is it like Ayurveda or something? Like the language of chakras, right? Like sitting straight so that your chakras are aligned, so that you can then project out with your third eye. This is not a language that I'm used to speaking. Obviously, clearly, but it's funny that they overlap. That they're so analogous to one another.
And
right?
And the chakras, which chakras, I mean, there's a lot of different systems. Maybe there's 7 chakras, maybe there's 12 chakras, depending upon the system you're looking at. This is not my area of depth at all. But what I think is interesting about it is those also relate into Western anatomical speak to some degree because they're areas of complexity in the body. So the root chakra and the pelvic floor and the abdomen and the heart and the throat and the brain, the third eye, all those places are places of complexity. There's nerve ganglia and arteries and lymphatic glands and all this stuff. So if you look at the body kind of like a highway, the nadis is the term for the kind of like rivers, those like energetic rivers, like the meridians. Those would be individual roads going down through the arms and kind of interconnecting throughout the whole entire body. And then in places like the elbows or the wrist or the shoulder or the heart or the brain, those are areas of complexity where all of those roads are conjoining into one. And then we refer to that as a chakra.
I love this.
Which is very interesting.
So is this why people recommend, why meditation teachers recommend sitting in an upright position with your spine straight?
So this is what I was getting to with the San Francisco State University stuff. They found that the students that were in hunched over, mopey positions, it was easier for them to access more depressive memories.
Wow.
And when students would be in more of an upright, shoulders back, open up the throat, up the organs, it's just the general universal indication that you're winning.
Wow, interesting.
It would be easier for them to be able to access more like uplifting memories.
Wow.
Which seems maybe at first kind of like, oh, that's crazy. But if you even stew in it for half a minute, you're like, oh, of course. Like every person across the planet wins a race the same way. Every person loses a race the same way. We all get dumped by a girl the same way. The same postural positions and expressions of, oh, it's like it's this general sensation of collapse. And when you're in that position in NLP speak, neurolinguistic programming, they have a term called anchoring. So maybe every time you do a podcast or do something that you care about, might put some specific song on, or maybe do some essential oils. And so you are anchoring your senses to have this memory of, oh, when I smell this or hear that, I feel this way. So posturally speaking, we've been anchoring ourselves for millennia. When I'm in that kind of hunched over defensive position, typically this type of, environmental stimulus is happening. I'm defending, I'm fighting, I'm sulking. And when I'm upright, arms up overhead, historically, that would be the memories where I was winning.
Yeah.
And so when you are doing this, accessing your subconscious or asking a question of your subconscious, like the quote in the book, I think it was like Edison or something. I think it was like, what did he say? He said, never go to bed without asking a question of your subconscious.
Yeah.
Something
I like that. Something like that.
Something along those lines.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Just having some relationship with that, that like inner voice. A beautiful opportunity there as well is to start to pay attention to your physical position while you're doing it. So a lot of the gratitude world or consciousness world, I think postural patterns and movement as a whole is it's like an underspoken aspect of it. And there's a lot of riches if we turn that stone over of just paying attention to the postural patterns as we're doing the things.
I love it. So as we're preparing for bed to optimize our morning ahead, what else are we doing to optimize sleep? You've actually changed my sleep. Yeah. Remember when you stayed over at my house and you were like, the lights are just way too bright up here. I now, when I'm getting ready for bed, I don't put on the overhead lights.
Right.
I don't put on the overhead lights. I have a red light bulb in a lamp by my bed, which I use exclusively when I'm winding down for bed. And I don't even put the lights on in my bathroom.
Yep.
I have like a little tiny red night light that is very dim, and it provides just enough light for me to see what I'm doing. Flossing my teeth, brushing my teeth, peeing before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I'm getting to bed and I feel like a hunter-gatherer while I'm doing so.
Yeah. Well, that's what we were talking about that before on your, or I guess on my podcast before this we recorded. And throughout our days, we're in this liminal space of light where we're not getting full spectrum sunlight. We're getting kind of this like junk light throughout the day, LEDs and such. And then when we go to bed and our bodies are craving that darkness, now we're still getting this blue light. So that's this ongoing blur of, it's kind of dark and kind of light, but we're never getting that not never. But it would be more idyllic if we could start to instill full darkness and full spectrum light throughout the day. Allow that the pendulum to fully swing.
Yeah, most of our mornings are not bright enough, and our nights are not dark enough.
Yeah. And so when you are going to bed, that's a really beautiful thing. Start to light candles, maybe get a salt lamp. If you are just all you have at the place that you're at is blue lights, you could get some blue light blocking glasses. If I travel, I'll bring candles with me, just because it's just nice. Think of the way that when you are with a partner, like a romantic partner, how do you romance your partner? You might light some candles, you might play some soothing music, you might like tidy the place up, make it feel good, make it feel clean.
Make them a steak.
You might make them a steak. You might like burn some wood or incense, or or essential oils. So we do all that stuff for someone else, and it makes it feel away. And the next day you wake up, you're like, that was the best night of my life. Because we had that accountability and that opportunity to be able to really treat someone else the way that ultimately I think that, we all like to be treated. But sometimes it takes someone else to be able to have the reminders like, oh, this is what it feels like to treat a human right. So if we can start to instill that into our own practices, it doesn't need to be super like weird. You don't need to like play romantic music or whatever you want for yourself, but like romance yourself a little bit, I think.
I love that idea.
And something as simple as just clean up for yourself.
Hey, if you like that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.
We're starting to see huge increases in autoimmune diseases, whether it's asthma, whether it's diabetes type 1, whether it's Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. All of those are autoimmune conditions that can be mitigated by vitamin D.